Welcome back to the class, guys. So this class is continuation class for the earlier video, introduction to Active Directory. So let's start with work group. So we have already discussed in the previous class what a work group is. Work group is a group of computers that are connected to each other as a network using some networking device like a router or a switch. Okay, it is a peer-to-peer kind of a networking model and do not have any centralized command and control like in Active Directory. So as you can see over here, this is a work group, a typical diagram of a work group. And in a work group, all participants, like all computers, can access shared files and folders, shared files and printers, shared resources. Usually, work group is suitable for small offices, schools, universities, or even you can use it in homes if you have multiple computers, so on. Now, in the previous class, as said, administrator of this network has to go to this PC1, PC2, PC3, 4, and so on. He has to move to all of these computers and create user accounts. Say, for example, there are say 50 users working in this small office. He has to create all 50 accounts on this individual computer. So this becomes a tedious task for the administrator to work it on, and not much security can be implemented when compared to an Active Directory. Okay, so as the definition says, work group is a group of computers connected to each other as network and can communicate to each other to share and access network resources. It's a peer-to-peer network model and don't have server to manage the network resources. Next, domain. So what is a domain in Active Directory? Domain in Active Directory in simple term is collection of objects. In the previous class, I already told that everything in Active Directory is an object, whether it's a printer, computer, user account, or file, shared file, network printer, everything is object. So collection of these objects on a network or in an Active Directory is a domain. As definition says, domain in simple terms is logical grouping of objects. Means you group these objects under one name. Say for example, this domain name can be INSECTECHS.in, and domain is an area of a network that is managed under one single authentication database. Say for example, INSECTECHS, pardon with my handwriting, INSECTECHS.in is the domain name. Then all the PCs, for example, these PCs, PC1, PC2, PC3, all these computers share same namespace. Like this would be pc1.insectex.in, and this would be pc2.insectex.in, and so on. This would be pc1.insectex.in. So all computers in a domain share common namespace. Now there is a difference between a domain and an Active Directory. Domain is actually a set of computers on a network and that are given a common name, while the Active Directory is a network administration concept that stores the information in a database and will provide conditional access, that is authentication and authorization. Next, what is a domain controller? Say for example, you have this empty PC in which there is no operating system, and if we install Microsoft Server 2019 operating system in this PC, and if we then later install Active Directory services in this computer, then this computer become a domain controller. Okay, a domain controller, and you have Active Directory services running over here. You have a database, okay, Active Directory database, and when you add a computers to this domain controller or this domain controller, this becomes a part of a domain controller like pc1.insectex.in, pc2.insectex.in, and so on. Okay, so domain controller is a server. Basically it is a server which runs Active Directory domain services, that is ADDS. It's listed over here. Okay, so as the domain controller definition says, domain controller or DC in simple terms is a computer or a server that runs ADDS services. Now in this domain controller or Active Directory domain controller, you have computers. You will add computers to these domain controllers, and this become say for example pc1.ist.in. So this is actually a computer account, and when you create user accounts, ACCOU user accounts, This database, this information, user account information and computer account information is fed into this domain controller database. So there is a database on this Active Directory domain controller, and you create user accounts and computer accounts. And this all information, what you are actually giving to a domain controller is actually you are giving it to a what is called as a schema. Okay. Say for example, for user account, schema would be something like your login ID, your password, your email ID, and so on. So it's a kind of attributes. It's a kind of attributes that you are giving as information to a schema which is in this domain controller. Similarly, for computer accounts, so here we have a computer. So for computer accounts, the schema is something like you have SID, that is security identifier. Security identifier. So security identifier is a unique ID to recognize a PC or a computer on Active Directory network. So in a domain controller, you save the database of all the objects like user accounts, computer accounts, shared files, network printers, and so on. And these are called objects, and objects have attributes, and any information that you are giving or you are saving in Active Directory database, that is ntds.dit file, and properties of objects are defined by schema. And schema in Active Directory defines the properties of objects in Active Directory, and schema can be extendable. For example, you have a user account which is an object, and it has properties like login name, password, and email account and email ID only. Now you can add a telephone number, full name, last name, first name, and other properties can be added. That is, you can add in the schema and it is extendable. I think it's all looking very messy. I hope you understand. Anyway, I'll give you the notes on this. So this is what is a domain controller. Okay. So next we have Active Directory. So you know what an Active Directory is. It is a database or a directory that stores information on a domain controller, or it is a set of services. You can say set of services that allows users on Active Directory or users on domain controller to access network resources. Okay, shared network resources. As the definition says over here, Active Directory is a directory service that centralizes the management of users and computers and other resources, and provides the centralized control to access the resources on the network, stores information in database, and any changes on the network like password changes, new user account creation, and records are stored to a database, I mean AD database. You will need dedicated computers or servers in order to store Active Directory database. And you can read the next 2 points. It also stores and shares network resources and services on network like shared folders and printers that we have been talking since long time. AD can be used for storing and sharing services like email services. It means that if you install Exchange server, then you can actually send mails within your corporation or within your enterprise network. So next in Active Directory class, we have object, group policy, and OU, organizational unit. So what is an object? We have been talking about object since the beginning of this class, since the beginning of Active Directory classes. So it is a component on Active Directory, like for example your computer, then user account, then printer, shared folder, domain, and object. Even collection of objects, collection of objects like groups is also sometimes can be defined as an object only. Okay. Now if we define a group, it is simply a collection of objects like computers, networks, and resources. Let me create a group called a group 1, and if I place not all but selected computers, selected user accounts, and 1 or 2 network printers into this group, so that the group administrator can manage it very simply as a single object. It means that here group is also an object. Then what is a group policy? Group policy means it is a principle of action that is defined by a company, so that individual in that company or organization must follow. To talk in simple words, it's simply a terms and conditions that you must follow. And group policy is a facility that allows you to make centralized changes to an object. The object includes again group objects and all the objects within that group. or a computer or a network quickly and easily. So what is an organizational unit? Organizational unit is a kind of, again, a group. Okay, it is a kind of group, but it is different from this group. As the definition says, organizational unit is a group that stores computers, objects, groups, and other OUs. So how this group and this group is different? Let me take you to another slide. Before that, let me finish the definition. So organizational unit is a group that stores computers, users, groups, other objects, and OUs. OUs are the smallest unit in Active Directory domain services to which administrator can assign group policy settings. An administrator, not actually a domain control administrator, but another administrator can assign a group policy settings to that organizational unit OU. So I know it is a little bit confusing because all the words are repeating and repeating. So let me be clear in the next slide. Now this is a domain controller and he is the administrator, and this is an marketing department, and this is a group, and this is an IT department, and this is another group. In this group, there is a security policy or a group policy that any employee will not be able to access cPanel or cannot change wallpaper. Okay, now a person sitting over here, say for example Ricky, wants to change his wallpaper, but there is a restriction, and when if he asks admin has not given him permission to change the wallpaper. So he writes a resignation letter, and company will accept the resignation because company finds that this guy, Mr. Ricky, is not a valuable professional. However, there is an restriction or a group policy that members of this group will not be able to use, for example, VPN. They cannot use a VPN service, or they cannot install browsers like web browsers, or they cannot be able to install any software applications. A guy sitting over here, Mr. Martin wants to install some applications and he approaches the admin, but admin has again denied the permission, so he wants to resign from the company. But in this scenario, company doesn't want to lose Mr. Martin because company feels that Mr. Martin is a valuable asset for this company or a valuable professional for this company, and company is not in a position to lose that guy. So what happens is they will create another group called IT OU, say for example IT organizational unit, and in this IT OU you can give one person administrative permissions so that he can perform the administrative task. It means that this one person is the administrator of this IT OU, and Mr. Martin will become the member of ITOU, and now he can actually install or he can install the applications, or he can use the VPN service. So instead of approaching the administrator over here, or instead of approaching the IT administrator, he can approach the smallest unit. That is, smallest unit is organizational unit. So ITOU admin to give him permissions to install applications. So OU is organizational unit, which is again a smallest group or smallest entity in ADDS that is used for administrative purposes only. Since long we are talking about Active Directory database in a domain controller, but have you bothered where is the file located in the domain controller and what is the name of that database file? Please stop this video, and if you can search in Google, do some research, or else please continue. So the file is located in system root ntds folder, and the name of the file is ntds.dit. Thank you for watching the video, and do subscribe to the YouTube channel INSECTECHS.